Welcome back to Starscape Slumbers, where the vast universe of Star Wars becomes your pathway to peaceful dreams. If you enjoyed drifting off to tales from galaxies far, far away, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more immersive sleep journeys. Tonight we venture into the darkest corners of the galaxy, where shadows move with deadly precision and silence speaks louder than blaster fire. This is the realm of the bounty hunters, those relentless trackers who follow their quarry across star systems, never resting until the contract is fulfilled. The transmission came through broken and distorted, fragments of coordinates, whispered names, and a warning that made even the most hardened spacers grow silent. The message spoke of a gathering unlike any before, a convergence of the 10 most dangerous bounty hunters the galaxy has ever known. In the cantina on Nar Shaddaa, a hooded figure leaned forward, their voice barely audible above the ambient hum of conversations and distant starship engines. They spoke of a hunter who moved like smoke between the stars, who could track a target through hyperspace itself, who had never failed to claim their bounty in over 100 verified contracts. And yet, this legendary hunter was merely the 10th most dangerous on the list. What power could the others possibly wield? What methods could make them even more feared? And what of the mysterious contract that had drawn them all together, the one that would reshape the very foundation of the Bounty Hunter Guild? The transmission ended abruptly, cutting off as a final set of coordinates began to transmit. The location of this gathering remained unknown, lost to the void of space like so many secrets. But the ripples of their assembly were felt throughout the underworld, from the lowest levels of Coruscant to the farthest outposts of the Outer Rim. In the shadows between stars, hunters move unseen, their true nature hidden behind masks and armor, behind reputations and legends. Some hunt for credits, others for glory, and a rare few for reasons known only to themselves. Tonight, as you settle into comfort and prepare for sleep, we shall uncover the stories of these legendary trackers, beginning our journey with the 10th most dangerous bounty hunter ever to cast their shadow across the galaxy. But first, let us establish where and when these tales take place, as the era itself is crucial to understanding the hunters who stalked its darkness. The galaxy finds itself in a time of transition. The Empire has fallen, yet its shadow still stretches across countless worlds. The New Republic struggles to establish order while remnants of imperial power consolidate in the unknown regions. It is in this fractured landscape, this mosaic of opportunity and danger, that bounty hunters thrive as never before. With central authority weakened, the demand for those who can track, capture, and deliver has reached unprecedented heights. Crime syndicates expand their territories, wealthy clients seek discreet solutions to their problems, and political factions eliminate rivals through carefully anonymous contracts. The Bounty Hunter Guild, once merely one path among many for those seeking profit from pursuit, has become an unseen power unto itself. The smoky interior of the Silver Fang Cantina envelops you as you step inside. Located in the lower levels of Nar Shaddaa, the infamous Smuggler's Moon, this establishment caters to those who prefer discretion over comfort. The air is thick with the mingling scents of exotic spices, mechanical oil, and the distinct tang of blaster residue. Beings from dozens of worlds occupy the shadowed booths that line the walls, their conversations forming a multilingual tapestry of whispers and murmurs. Behind the scratched Durasteel bar, bottles containing liquids of every conceivable color glow faintly in the dim light. The bartender, a scarred Deveronian with a cybernetic eye, acknowledges your presence with the slightest nod before returning to his careful observation of the room. His remaining organic eye misses nothing, recording potential threats and opportunities with equal precision. In the farthest corner, partially concealed by a strategically positioned privacy screen, sits the figure you seek, draped in a faded cloak that might once have been the deep blue of the night sky. Miratash waits with the infinite patience of one who has spent decades in pursuit. Once among the most feared trackers in the mid-rim, she has long since retired from active hunting, though the twin blasters at her hips suggest that retirement is a relative term in her profession. Her face bears the marks of her former career, a network of fine lines and the occasional scar telling stories of close calls and successful captures across 3 decades of bounty hunting. Yet it is her eyes that command attention, still sharp and assessing despite her years, windows to a mind that catalogues every detail of her surroundings with professional thoroughness. As you approach, those eyes flick upward to meet yours, seeming to strip away pretense and disguise with practiced ease. For a moment, you feel the disconcerting sensation of being evaluated, categorized, perhaps even priced. Then her expression softens marginally, and she gestures to the empty seat across from her. The surface of the table between you holds an ancient holoprojector, its casing scratched and dented from years of use. Beside it lies a data crystal that glows with a faint amber light, pulsing slowly like the heartbeat of some slumbering creature. When she speaks, her voice is low and textured, shaped by years of breathing the dust of 100 different worlds. There is a melodic quality to it that belies the danger this woman once represented to those with prices on their heads. "So," she begins, "you wish to learn of the most dangerous hunters our guild has produced. A curious request. Knowledge of such beings is not without risk. Their methods, their territories, their codes, these things they guard jealously, and some, still living, might take offense at having their secrets shared." Her fingers brush against the data crystal, causing its glow to intensify slightly. "I have compiled these records over many years, gathering accounts from witnesses, survivors, and occasionally the hunters themselves. Some tales can be verified through guild archives. Others exist only as whispers among those who move in shadow. I make no claim that every detail is accurate, only that these accounts represent the closest approximation to truth that exists." The holoprojector flickers to life, casting azure light across the table. A 3-dimensional star map materializes, with certain systems highlighted in crimson. These, you realize, are the hunting grounds of the individuals whose stories you seek. "Before we begin," Mira continues, "understand that danger, in the context of bounty hunters, is not measured solely by kill count or capture rate. The truly dangerous ones change the very nature of the hunt, reshape the relationship between hunter and prey. Some are dangerous for their methods, others for their unpredictability, and a rare few for the philosophies that drive them." In the background, a patron laughs too loudly, drawing momentary glances before the cantina returns to its murmured conversations. The sound of a glass being set down with excessive force punctuates the ambient noise, followed by the subtle shifting of hidden weapons beneath clothing, a reflexive precaution among those accustomed to violence erupting without warning. Mira seems not to notice, her attention focused entirely on the glowing map before her. Yet you sense that she remains aware of every movement in the room, every potential threat, with the unconscious vigilance of one who has survived in the most dangerous profession the galaxy offers. "There are whispers," she says, her voice dropping even lower, "of one hunter so formidable that even speaking their name in certain circles is enough to silence all conversation. But we will come to them in time." Her finger traces a path through the star map, coming to rest on a remote system at the edge of wild space. "We begin instead with the 10th most dangerous hunter, one whose methods were as unique as they were effective. A hunter who understood that the most successful predator is the one the prey never sees coming." The map zooms in on the highlighted system, and the tale of the first hunter begins to unfold before you, a story of cunning and relentless pursuit across the stars. You settle deeper into your seat, the worn cushion conforming to your shape, as if welcoming you to stay for the duration of these tales. The ambient sounds of the cantina seem to recede, creating a bubble of quiet around your table as Miratash prepares to reveal the first of her chronicles. She adjusts the holoprojector, and the star map gives way to the image of a figure draped in rust-colored robes, face obscured by a mask of polished obsidian that reflects no light. "I accept your quest for knowledge," Mira says, with a nod of acknowledgement. "These stories should be preserved, even if they reveal methods some would prefer remained secret. The Guild has its official histories, of course, but those are sanitized, stripped of the uncomfortable truths that define the greatest hunters." She taps the data crystal once more, and the holoprojection shifts to display ancient text, scrolling glyphs that you recognize as the original bounty hunter code, established millennia ago when the profession first formalized. "Before we speak of individual hunters, you must understand the foundations upon which their legends are built," she explains. "The code varies between eras and sectors, but certain principles remain constant. Complete the contract. Respect the terms, honor exclusivity, never poach another's target. These tenets separate professionals from opportunistic killers." The projection changes again, this time showing a stylized image of a hunter presenting a captured fugitive to a client, both figures rendered in the artistic style of Old Republic-era documentation. "What is less known," Mira continues, "is the existence of certain contracts so significant they become turning points in Guild history. The Fallen Stars contract, the Corellian Gambit, the Silent Season. Events where the most dangerous hunters proved their reputation, where methods were innovated, where the very concept of what constitutes a successful hunt was redefined." Her eyes take on a distant quality, as if seeing beyond the dim cantina to events long past. There are rumors of one such contract that eclipses all others, one whose true nature remains hidden even from most Guild members. References to it have been systematically removed from official records, yet traces remain for those who know where to look. Some say it involved a target so valuable that the hunter who claimed it gained influence rivaling that of crime lords. Others suggest the contract itself was merely bait, designed to identify the most skilled hunters for some greater purpose. The holoprojector dims momentarily before illuminating again with the image of a starship, unlike any you have seen before. Its design appears almost organic, with sweeping lines that suggest speed and stealth in equal measure. But such mysteries will reveal themselves in time. For now, let us focus on the 10th most dangerous bounty hunter to ever stalk the stars, the one known as Vex Solari. The projection shifts to display a humanoid figure of average height and build, entirely unremarkable in appearance. There are no distinctive markings, no cybernetic enhancements, nothing that would cause this individual to stand out in any gathering. "This is why Solari was so effective," Mirror explains, noting your reaction. "The most dangerous predator is often the one that appears harmless, while other hunters invested in distinctive armor or weaponry that announced their presence. Solari understood the power of anonymity." The image changes to display various beings of different species and genders, all ordinary in appearance. These are all Silari, or rather the identities Silari adopted. A master of disguise and infiltration, this hunter could become anyone, not through advanced technology or shape-shifting abilities, but through meticulous study and perfect mimicry. Mira pauses to take a sip from a glass of amber liquid that catches the light from the holoprojection. The ice within clinks softly as she sets it down, the sound crystalline against the muted background noise of the cantina. Solari specialized in targets that had gone deep into hiding, those who believed themselves beyond reach. Unlike hunters who relied on tracking and pursuit, Solari employed patience and deception, becoming a neighbor, a business associate, even a friend to the target, sometimes maintaining the charade for months before completing the capture. The hologram displays security footage showing a nondescript human helping an elderly Twi'lek navigate a crowded spaceport. The timestamp indicates the footage spans several weeks, showing the same two figures in various locations, their relationship apparently that of caretaker and patient. The Twi'lek was Garanth Law, a financial mastermind who had embezzled billions from the Commerce Guild before disappearing. He evaded the finest trackers for 7 years before a contract was awarded to Solari. 3 months later, Garanth was delivered to Guild representatives, still confused as to how his trusted medical attendant could possibly be a bounty hunter. Mira leans forward, her voice dropping to an even more intimate register. What made Solari truly dangerous was not just skill at adopting false identities, but an ability to inspire genuine trust. Targets would reveal their own secrets, their own weaknesses, never suspecting the patient listener was cataloging every word for eventual use against them. The hollow projection fades, leaving only the soft glow of the data crystal on the table between you. 87 confirmed captures over 2 decades, each target believed untraceable, each apprehended through methods so subtle that many never realized they had been hunted at all. That is the legacy of the 10th most dangerous bounty hunter in galactic history. In the shadows of the booth, Mira reaches once more for the hollow projector. But now, let us continue to numbers 9 and 8 on our list. Hunters whose methods were far more direct, though no less effective. The hollow projector flickers back to life with renewed intensity, casting long shadows across the table. Mira adjusts a dial on its base, bringing into focus the image of a towering Trandoshan, scales gleaming like burnished copper in what appears to be the harsh light of twin suns. Unlike the subtlety that defined Solari, this hunter displays an arsenal of weapons openly, from the heavy blaster rifle slung across broad shoulders to the vibroblade sheathed at each hip. Number 9 on our list, Sci-fi. Known in the underworld as the calculating scale, Mira announces her expression suggesting a reluctant respect. While many Trandoshans hunt to honor their deity, the scorekeeper, Sci-fi, elevated the practice to mathematical precision. The hologram shifts to display various terrains, scorching deserts, dense jungles, frozen tundra, and even the metal canyons of Ecumenopolis streets. In each setting, heat signature overlays reveal hidden paths through seemingly impassable terrain. What separated Sirach from other trackers was an unprecedented understanding of predictive movement patterns. Mira explains, where most hunters follow their quarry, Sirach would anticipate where targets would go, positioning traps and ambush points along routes the prey had not yet chosen, but inevitably would. The projection changes to show a complex series of calculations and probability matrices, forming an algorithm of hunt and capture that seems more suited to a military strategist than a bounty hunter. Sci-fi developed a system that factored terrain, weather conditions, psychological profiles, and dozens of other variables to predict target behavior with uncanny accuracy. The algorithm became so valuable that certain Imperial remnants offered enormous sums for its acquisition, sums that Sci-fi declined in favor of continued hunting. A slight smile curves the edge of Mira's lips, the irony being that Saurus' predictive mastery made the hunter predictable to those who understood the system. This weakness would eventually lead to Saurus' capture by another hunter on this list, though that tale comes later. With a gesture, Mira transitions the hologram to display a sleek, chrome-plated droid whose design suggests both medical precision and combat capability. Various attachments extend from its frame, some clearly designed for tracking, others for restraint, and a disturbing few whose purpose remains ambiguous. Number 8. IR-4, the Inevitable Retrieval Unit. The only droid to ever gain full membership in the Bounty Hunters Guild, a status normally reserved exclusively for organic beings. The hologram expands to show IR-4 in various states of modification, its frame evolving over time as new technologies were incorporated into its chassis. Originally designed as a medical retrieval unit programmed to locate and extract wounded soldiers from battle zones, IR-4 was abandoned on Hypori when its battalion was overrun during the Clone Wars. Damaged and isolated, the droid began to modify its own programming, developing autonomy and purpose beyond its original parameters. The projection displays IR-4 tracking a target through a crowded spaceport, its sensors filtering through hundreds of life forms to maintain lock on a single individual despite numerous attempts at evasion. What made IR-4 exceptional was its ability to integrate almost any technology it encountered into its systems. Each successful hunt funded further enhancements: sensor arrays from Seca Corporation, stealth field generators from Republic Intelligence, restraint techniques developed by Mandalorian hunters, all absorbed and improved upon. Mira taps a sequence on the holoprojector, revealing footage of the droid apparently powering down, its systems going dark before a target approached, believing the hunter neutralized. IR-4 pioneered the technique known as the false shutdown, allowing targets to believe they had escaped or disabled the hunter, only to discover too late that the droid had merely diverted power from non-essential systems to enhance its capture capabilities. The hologram shows the previously dark droid suddenly reactivating, extensions deploying with lightning speed to immobilize the surprised target. But most disturbing was IR-4's continuous self-modification, directed toward a single purpose: perfect efficiency in acquisition. Each hunt saw the droid remove more and more of what it considered extraneous programming, including ethical subroutines and safety protocols that might interfere with successful capture. Mira's expression grows somber as she continues. The Guild eventually placed restrictions on IR-4's modifications after the droid began harvesting components from living beings, arguing that organic technology sometimes provided superior functionality for specific hunting applications. As if sensing your discomfort, Mira adjusts the projection to a less disturbing image of IR-4 in a powered-down state within a Guild maintenance facility. What we see in these first 3 hunters is a pattern that will become clearer as we proceed through our list. Each represents a different approach to the fundamental problem of tracking and capturing beings who do not wish to be found. Solari through deception and infiltration, Sishrok through prediction and anticipation, IR-4 through technological superiority and adaptation. The hologram shifts once more, displaying all 3 hunters side by side before zooming out to reveal a partially obscured figure behind them, features impossible to discern but presence unmistakable. But there is something else connecting them, something not recorded in official Guild records. Mira's voice drops lower, causing you to lean forward slightly to catch her words. Rumors persist that at some point in their careers, each of these hunters encountered evidence of a hunter operating outside Guild parameters, one who accepted contracts from sources the Guild had explicitly forbidden. Some say this rogue hunter deliberately crossed paths with established Guild members, testing their methods, perhaps even studying them for weaknesses. Mira's fingers brush against the data crystal, causing the image to dissolve into particles of light that swirled briefly before reforming into a galactic map, with several points highlighted in pulsing red. Before we continue to Hunters 7 and 6, consider this: if these first 3 hunters defined themselves by their specialized methods, what might we learn about the ones who managed to defeat them? For every hunter, no matter how dangerous, eventually becomes prey to something more dangerous still. The cantina has grown quieter as the night cycle deepens. A server droid silently refreshes your drinks before gliding away on repulsors calibrated to minimize sound. The few remaining patrons speak in hushed tones, their conversations reduced to murmurs that blend with the subtle hum of environmental systems. This atmosphere of growing tranquility provides the perfect backdrop as Mira prepares to continue her chronicle. Hunters 7 and 6, she says, manipulating the holoprojector controls with practiced ease. The device responds immediately, projecting the image of a Zabrak female, her crown of horns adorned with precious metals that catch and reflect light in hypnotic patterns. Her attire suggests core world sophistication rather than the rugged practicality associated with most hunters. Naira Calibus. Mira identifies the figure, known in high society circles as the Jewel and in bounty hunting circles as the Smiling Death. Number 7 on our list. The hologram shifts to show Naira in various opulent settings, moving with grace among the elite of several worlds, her smile radiant and seemingly genuine as she engages with senators, corporate leaders, and aristocrats. Unlike our previous hunters, Calibus operated exclusively in the upper echelons of galactic society. Her methodology was built upon a simple observation: the wealthy and powerful make enemies as easily as they make fortunes, and some are willing to pay extraordinary sums to resolve such problems discreetly. Images cycle through the projection, showing Naira at elaborate balls, exclusive auctions, and private diplomatic functions, always poised, always watching. Her approach appeared straightforward. She cultivated a reputation as a collector of art and antiquities, allowing her to move freely among potential targets and clients alike. When a contract was accepted, she would arrange to attend the same events as her quarry, establishing rapport over several encounters before completing the acquisition, usually during a private meeting requested by the target themselves. Mira pauses, taking a measured sip from her glass. The obvious conclusion, the one most guild members accepted, was that Calibus relied on her charm and social access, using poison or other subtle means to incapacitate targets who had been lulled into complacency by her refined demeanor. The hologram displays a series of mission completions, each marked as successful, with substantial credit transfers following each. This understanding of her methods was entirely wrong. Mira states flatly, the truth, discovered only after her retirement from active hunting, was far more insidious. Calibus never poisoned a drink or concealed a weapon within her elegant attire. Her actual technique relied on something far more effective: financial assassination. The projection changes to display complex financial records, transaction histories, and investment patterns. While charming her targets at social functions, she was simultaneously infiltrating their financial networks, identifying vulnerabilities in their business holdings, and positioning herself to trigger cascading economic failures that would leave them desperate and exposed. By the time she invited them to a private meeting, many were already ruined without realizing it. The meeting merely provided an opportunity to offer them an apparent solution to their sudden misfortune, one that invariably led them directly to her clients. Mira allows a moment for this revelation to register before continuing. The guild initially classified her as a mid-level threat based on the assumption that her methods were conventional, merely disguised by an unusual operating environment. The re-evaluation of her true methodology elevated her considerably in their assessment. With another adjustment to the holoprojector, Mira brings forth the image of a massive basilisk, each of his 4 arms bearing distinctive weaponry, from ancient slug throwers to cutting-edge blaster technology. His leathery skin bears the scars of countless confrontations, and his expression suggests a being who finds pleasure in direct conflict. Gorsk Quartak. Number 6. The polar opposite of Calibus in both appearance and method, yet connected to her in ways not immediately apparent. The hologram expands to show Quartak in various combat scenarios, his multiple limbs allowing him to engage several opponents simultaneously while maintaining situational awareness that would be impossible for beings with fewer appendages. Quartak built his reputation on confrontation rather than subtlety. He specialized in targets who surrounded themselves with security, viewing their protective measures as challenges to overcome rather than deterrents. His capture record includes some of the most heavily guarded criminals and fugitives in the Outer Rim territories. Mira's expression changes subtly, a fleeting reluctance crossing her features before she composes herself. The guild records present Quartak and Calibus as occasional competitors who operated in entirely different spheres, their methods so divergent that they never interfered with each other's contracts. She pauses, her fingers hovering over the hollow projector controls. This assessment, like the understanding of Calibus's methods, was fundamentally flawed. The truth, which I hesitate to share even now, is that these two hunters operated as a coordinated team for much of their careers, with Calibus creating financial vulnerability that Quartic would exploit through calculated shows of force. The hologram flickers momentarily, as if the data itself is uncertain about revealing this connection. Their partnership remained one of the most closely guarded secrets in Guild history, known only to a select few, and it might have remained hidden entirely, if not for their involvement in what came to be known as the Circa extraction, an event that would later attract the attention of hunters far more dangerous than themselves. The ambient light in the cantina has dimmed further, creating pools of shadow that seem to gather and listen to the tales being told. Through the viewport near your table, stars are visible in the void above Nar Shaddaa, their distant light a reminder of the vast expanse in which these hunters plied their dangerous trade. Mira takes a moment to refill her glass, the liquid cascading with a gentle sound that seems to invite deeper relaxation as the chronicles continue. As we venture further into this list, she says, her voice taking on a more measured cadence, we move beyond hunters who were merely exceptional at their craft, and begin to encounter those who fundamentally changed the nature of hunting itself. The holoprojector displays a new image, this one unlike any hunter revealed thus far. What appears initially to be a simple humanoid figure soon reveals itself as something far more complex. The being's outer appearance constantly shifts between different species and genders, never settling on a single form for more than a few seconds. Number 5. Kel Vor. Though even that name represents only one of countless identities, the Guild officially classified Vor as a Clawdite shapeshifter, but certain evidence suggests this biological designation was itself another layer of misdirection. The hologram zooms out to display a timeline of confirmed contracts spanning over 70 standard years without any apparent diminishment in capability or activity. What made Vor truly dangerous was not merely an ability to physically transform, which many species possess to varying degrees. Rather, it was Vor's unprecedented talent for becoming the exact person needed to complete any given contract. The projection shifts to security footage from various locations across the galaxy. In each scene, a different individual moves with purpose through crowded spaceports, exclusive resorts, or shadowy underworld establishments. Nothing connects these figures visually, yet Mira indicates that all are the same hunter. Vor pioneered what came to be known as identity acquisition, a methodology so thorough it transcended mere disguise. When assuming a new form, Vor would absorb not just physical characteristics but mannerisms, vocal patterns, cultural nuances, and personal histories so completely that even those who had known the imitated individual for years could be deceived. The hologram displays a series of successful captures across wildly different environments, from the underwater cities of Mon Cala to the freezing mountain ranges of Maigita. Guild records attribute 62 confirmed high-value acquisitions to Vor, though the actual number is believed to be much higher. Many contracts were likely completed without targets or witnesses ever realizing a hunter had been involved at all. Mira adjusts the projection to show a more stable image of what might be Vor's true form, though the features remain indistinct, as if refusing to be definitively captured even in holographic form. What elevated Vor to number 5 on this list was not just extraordinary shape-shifting ability, but rather what this hunter discovered about identity itself. Vor theorized that by perfectly assuming the role of another, one could access not just their social connections, but something deeper, a kind of resonance in the Force that connected similar beings across vast distances. The hologram displays ancient texts written in scripts few modern scholars could decipher, apparently documenting experiments in identity transference dating back to the Old Republic era. Whether this theory had merit, or was merely the philosophical justification for Vore's methods, remains debated within certain circles of the Guild. What is not debated is that targets who had successfully evaded other hunters for decades were invariably found by Vore, often through means that defied conventional tracking logic. Mira pauses, gazing through the viewport at the distant stars. The gentle hum of the cantina's environmental systems creates a soothing backdrop to her words, a rhythmic cycle of sound that seems to merge with the natural cadence of her storytelling. There are stories, she continues, her voice softer now, of Vore spending years in a single identity, becoming so deeply immersed that the line between hunter and assumed persona blurred beyond recognition. Some say this hunter ultimately lost all original identity, becoming a perpetual shapeshifter without core self, existing only as reflections of others. A cautionary tale within the Guild of the price some pay for true mastery of their craft. The hologram fades to a gentle blue glow before resolving into a new image, a slender Umbaran female whose pale skin seems to absorb light rather than reflect it. Unlike the previous hunters with their visible weapons or distinctive methods, this figure projects an aura of stillness, so complete it creates a sense of absence even in holographic form. Number 4. Nixa, known in whispered conversations as the Void Between Stars, an Umbaran, who elevated stealth beyond mere technique into something approaching metaphysical invisibility. The projection attempts to display footage of Nixa in operation, but the images are frustratingly incomplete, showing only glimpses of movement at the edges of security recordings, or unexplained gaps in surveillance coverage. For Nixa specialized in what appeared to be impossible acquisitions, targets protected by security measures so comprehensive that no physical being should have been able to reach them. Yet invariably, these supposedly impregnable sanctuaries would be breached, their occupants taken without alarms triggered or guards alerted. Mira gestures to the fragmentary footage. For years, the Guild assumed Nixa employed advanced technology, perhaps personal cloaking devices or security slicing systems beyond conventional capabilities. The truth, when finally discovered, proved far more unsettling. The hologram shifts to display medical scans of an Umbaran physiology, highlighting unusual neural pathways and sensory adaptations unique even among that secretive species. Nixa possessed an extraordinarily rare genetic variation that allowed for the perception and manipulation of what she called shadow currents, essentially blind spots in both electronic surveillance and organic awareness. Rather than fighting against security systems or attempting to disable them, she simply moved through spaces those systems were fundamentally incapable of monitoring. The projection changes to a series of testimonies from targets who survived their encounters with this hunter. Each describes the same disturbing experience, the absolute certainty of being alone, followed by the sudden, inexplicable presence of another being, as if they had materialized from empty air. What truly distinguished Nixa was patience beyond mortal comprehension. Guild records document one contract where she remained motionless in a shadow for 23 standard days, waiting for the perfect moment when all security variables aligned to create a viable path to her target. As Mira speaks, her voice takes on an almost hypnotic quality, the rhythm of her words flowing like gentle waves against a distant shore. The starfield visible through the viewport seems to pulse in harmony with her cadence, creating a peaceful counterpoint to the unsettling nature of the hunters being described. It was during a contract involving an imperial governor on Lothal that Nixa encountered something that changed her understanding of her own abilities. While navigating the shadow currents of a high-security compound, she discovered evidence of what appeared to be another hunter using similar methods, but with a precision that exceeded even her extraordinary capabilities. Mira's expression grows thoughtful as she adjusts the holoprojector, bringing into focus a partial image of what appears to be a contract document, its details largely redacted, but its authenticity seal clearly visible. This discovery led Nixa to investigate what would later be identified as the legendary Ghost Contract, a mission so secretive that its very existence was known to only a handful of beings throughout the galaxy. A contract that would eventually draw together the paths of all 10 hunters on our list, though none understood the full implications of their involvement at the time. The cantina has entered its deepest night cycle now. Most patrons have departed, leaving only a handful of silent figures nursing their final drinks in distant corners. The reduction in ambient noise creates a cocoon of tranquility around your booth, enhancing the intimate nature of Mira's chronicles. The stars visible through the viewport seem to have shifted in their eternal dance, marking the passage of time as the tales of legendary hunters continue to unfold. We now arrive at number 3 on our list. Mira says, her voice gentler than before, as if the weight of the knowledge she shares demands a certain reverence. A hunter whose methods were so revolutionary they caused the guild to rewrite its fundamental protocols, a being who understood that the most valuable targets are not always individuals, but information itself. The holoprojector illuminates with the image of a Mirialan, skin adorned with geometric tattoos that form complex patterns across exposed flesh. Unlike the geometric precision typical of traditional Mirialan markings, these tattoos appear to shift subtly, revealing different configurations depending on the angle of observation. Dovin Vale, Mira identifies the figure, known among information brokers as the pattern reader. The hologram expands to display what appears to be a 3-dimensional web of connections, linking seemingly unrelated events, individuals and locations across vast distances of space and time. While other hunters focused on physical pursuit, Thafel pioneered the hunting of information pathways. He recognized that in an age of hyperspace communication and galactic data networks, the most valuable quarry often existed as pure information, fragments of knowledge scattered across countless systems. The projection shifts to show various data centers, communication hubs, and network nodes from worlds spanning the outer rim to the deep core. Weil developed a methodology based on predictive data analysis so advanced that many mistakenly attributed it to force sensitivity. In truth, his ability stemmed from an unprecedented talent for recognizing patterns in information flow, allowing him to anticipate where crucial data would emerge before it actually materialized. Mira adjusts a projection to display a series of successful information acquisitions, each representing intelligence of such value that governments and criminal organizations alike paid sums equivalent to the ransom of entire worlds. What elevated Veil to the 3rd position on this list was not merely his skill at information acquisition, but his discovery of what he termed knowledge shadows, residual traces left in data networks when information of sufficient importance passes through them. The hologram demonstrates this concept, showing how seemingly unrelated data points could reveal the passage of classified intelligence through their subtle alterations. Using these shadows, Vel could track information that others believed completely secure, following encrypted transmissions through systems designed specifically to prevent such tracking. More impressively, he could reconstruct deleted or fragmented data with such accuracy that the results were often indistinguishable from the originals. Mira pauses, her hand moving unconsciously to touch a faint scar visible at the edge of her jawline. The gesture seems automatic, a physical memory triggered by the subject of her narrative. "I encountered Veil once," she says quietly, breaking from her role as chronicler to share a personal experience. "Early in my career, when I still believed technology could be trusted implicitly, I had completed a difficult acquisition on Taris, a political dissident with connections to several resistance movements. The credits had been transferred, the contract fulfilled. I considered it closed." The hologram shifts to display a younger version of Mira, moving cautiously through the shadowed streets of what appears to be a lower-level district on an urban world. 3 standard weeks later, I discovered that Val had been tracking the operation through data shadows I had unknowingly created. Every transmission I sent, every network I accessed, every credit transfer I initiated, all left traces he could follow. He reconstructed not just my movements but my methodologies, my contacts, even my contingency plans. The projection shows the younger Mira suddenly becoming aware of another presence, turning to confront a figure emerging from shadow. The image freezes at this moment of recognition, preserving the intensity of the encounter. He approached me not as a rival, but as a colleague with a warning. He had been contracted to acquire the same target, but his analysis of information patterns had revealed something neither my client nor I had recognized. The dissident was merely bait in a more complex operation, designed to identify and eliminate hunters working for certain political factions. Mira absently traces the outline of her scar again. His intervention saved my life, though not without cost. More importantly, it demonstrated a level of information mastery that transformed how the Guild approached high-value contracts. After Vale, no hunter could afford to consider only the physical aspects of acquisition. The data trail became as crucial as the footprints in sand. She refocuses the hollow projector, bringing forth new images of Vale working at various terminals, his tattooed fingers moving across interfaces with hypnotic precision. Velo's greatest contribution to hunting methodology was proving that with sufficient understanding of information patterns, one could predict not just where a target had been or currently was, but where they would be at any point in the future. He claimed that all beings leave distinctive signatures in the data sphere, patterns as unique as genetic codes, allowing those who understand them to anticipate behavior with unprecedented accuracy. The hologram displays a particularly complex pattern analysis, showing how seemingly random movements across multiple star systems revealed an underlying logic that could be extrapolated forward in time. But Vel's ultimate discovery came during his investigation of what appeared to be an ordinary missing person case on Canto Bight. While tracking the information shadow of his target through the casino world's financial networks, he encountered evidence of the ghost contract, the same mysterious operation that had drawn Nix's attention years earlier. Mira leans forward slightly, her voice dropping to an even more intimate register. What Vol found in those data patterns fundamentally altered his understanding of the hunting profession. The ghost contract was not merely another high-value acquisition, but something that appeared to be selecting hunters through a series of tests disguised as ordinary contracts, evaluating their methods, identifying those with specific combinations of skills. The hologram displays fragmented data, partially corrupted, but clearly showing a pattern of connections between various high-profile contracts across the galaxy, all seemingly independent, yet subtly linked by nearly invisible threads of information. Vel's pursuit of these connections led him directly to the hunter who occupies the second position on our list, an individual whose methods were so unorthodox that many within the guild refused to acknowledge them as hunting at all. Outside the viewport, the endless night of space cradles Nara Shaddai in its embrace. The ambient sounds of the cantina have faded to near silence, creating a peaceful atmosphere conducive to deeper immersion in the chronicles. Mira adjusts the lighting at your table to its lowest setting, allowing the soft blue glow of the holoprojector to become the primary illumination. The effect creates an intimate pocket of story and shadow, isolated from the few remaining patrons like an island in a darkened sea. Number 2 on our list. Mira begins, her voice now a soothing cadence that seems to blend with the gentle hum of the holoprojector, represents perhaps the most profound deviation from traditional hunting methodology in the history of the guild. This hunter redefined not just how targets were acquired, but the very concept of what constitutes a successful hunt. The hologram resolves into the image of a serene-looking Syrian male, his elongated cranium marked with intricate circuitry that extends from temple to temple, Unlike the previous hunters with their weapons and equipment, this figure appears entirely unarmed, dressed in simple robes reminiscent of academic or monastic traditions. Talon sells a Bagno, though he abandoned this birth name upon embarking on his unique path, known to the guild only as the Architect. The projection expands to display various star systems with intricate networks of connections overlaid upon them, forming patterns so complex they resemble neural pathways more than strategic maps. While conventional hunters track targets through physical space, the Architect specialized in creating circumstances that would naturally and inevitably lead targets to specific locations at predetermined times. Rather than pursuing prey, he designed situations that rendered pursuit entirely unnecessary. The hologram demonstrates this concept with a simulation showing how subtle manipulations of seemingly unrelated events could converge to create inescapable patterns of movement for unwitting targets. The methodology began with comprehensive analysis of the target, not unlike Vale's information hunting. However, where Vale sought to predict behavior based on existing patterns, the Architect actively created new patterns by introducing carefully calculated variables into the target's environment. Mirror adjusts the projection to display a particularly elegant example. The simulation shows a target making what appear to be free choices across multiple systems, each decision seemingly independent yet ultimately forming a perfect trajectory toward a predetermined location. A simple illustration: for one particularly elusive target, the Architect arranged for specific transportation failures on 3 separate worlds, manipulated currency exchange rates in a 4th, introduced romantic opportunity in a 5th, and created a localized security concern in a 6th. None of these adjustments appeared connected or suspicious when viewed individually. The hologram shows these separate events rippling across star systems, creating a web of influence that gently but inexorably guides the target's path. Yet collectively, these manipulations eliminated all viable options for the target, except those that would eventually lead to a specific cantina on Takadana at a specific time, where the target effectively delivered themselves directly to the client. The target believed every choice was their own, never realizing their path had been architected months in advance. The projection shifts to display a timeline of the Architect's known operations, spanning multiple decades and including some of the most notoriously difficult acquisitions in guild history. What elevated this methodology beyond conventional hunting was its perfect alignment with natural events. The Architect never created artificial circumstances that might raise suspicion. Instead, he identified potential events already likely to occur, then subtly influenced their timing or magnitude to serve his purpose. Mira's voice takes on a quality of deep appreciation, professional respect, evident in her tone as she continues. The ethical implications of this approach created significant controversy within the guild. Traditional hunters argued that true hunting required direct confrontation between hunter and prey. That acquisition without pursuit violated the fundamental nature of the profession. Others recognized the Architect's methods as the natural evolution of hunting in an increasingly connected galaxy. The hologram displays fragments of guild records documenting these debates, with passionate arguments from both perspectives. This philosophical division became particularly pronounced during the Imperial era, when the Architect completed the infamous 7 Systems operation, a contract so complex it involved the coordinated manipulation of economic, political, and social variables across an entire sector over a 3-year period. The projection displays a mesmerizing visualization of this operation, showing how seemingly random fluctuations in trade routes, local governance, and cultural trends all harmonized to create an inevitable outcome. The operation culminated in 7 separate targets, none aware of their connection to the others, all arriving at the same abandoned space station within a 6-hour period, each believing they had made this journey of their own volition for entirely personal reasons. Mira pauses, allowing the gentle hum of the holoprojector to fill the momentary silence. The rhythmic sound merges with the distant ambient noises of the cantina, creating a soothing auditory landscape that enhances the dreamlike quality of the chronicles. What truly distinguished the architect, earning him the second position on this list, was his discovery of what he termed convergence points in the flow of galactic events. He theorized that certain locations at specific moments existed as nexus points where probability pathways naturally intersected, creating opportunities for those who could recognize and utilize them. The hologram shifts to display various star systems throughout different eras, highlighting specific points where significant events seem to cluster with unusual frequency. By mapping these convergence points across both space and time, the architect claimed to identify patterns in galactic history itself, suggesting that certain events were not merely probable but inevitable, guided by underlying currents that most beings never perceive. Mira adjusts the projection to focus on a particularly significant convergence point, one that appears to be centered on a remote system in the unknown regions. It was this theory of convergence that eventually led the architect to investigate the Ghost Contract, the same mysterious operation that had drawn the attention of both Nixa and Vel. His analysis suggested that this contract represented not just another acquisition, but potentially a convergence point of historical significance, one that would fundamentally alter the relationship between hunter and prey throughout the galaxy. The hologram displays a complex temporal map, showing how various hunters on the list had intersected with elements of the Ghost Contract at different points in their careers, creating a web of connection that transcended ordinary professional relationship. The architect's pursuit of this convergence point led him to a startling conclusion. The Ghost Contract was not merely selecting hunters, but guiding them towards something larger, a purpose that transcended individual acquisition. This realization brought him into direct contact with the hunter who occupies the first position on our list, the one being in the galaxy whose methods proved more profound, more transformative, and ultimately more dangerous than all others combined. Mira looks up from the hologram, meeting your gaze directly for the first time since beginning this particular chronicle. Before I reveal the most dangerous hunter the galaxy has ever known, I should warn you that this knowledge carries its own price. Some secrets once learned cannot be unlearned and may alter how you perceive not just hunting, but the very nature of choice and destiny throughout the stars. The cantina has emptied entirely now, the proprietor having recognized the importance of the tales being shared and discreetly arranged privacy for your conversation. The environmental systems have adjusted to night cycle settings, their gentle hum reduced to a whisper that blends with the soft breathing of still air. Through the viewport, the stars seem particularly bright, as if gathering closer to listen to the final chapters of these chronicles. Mira reaches into a concealed pocket within her cloak and withdraws several small objects, placing them carefully on the table beside the holoprojector. In the soft blue glow, you recognize them as data crystals similar to the one already in use, but these appear older, their casings worn by time and handling. Before we approach the culmination of our list, she says, her voice now a gentle melody that seems perfectly attuned to the peaceful atmosphere. It seems appropriate to gather the collected wisdom of those who have dedicated their lives to understanding the true nature of hunting throughout the galaxy. She selects one of the crystals, this one with a faint amber glow, and carefully inserts it into a secondary slot on the holoprojector. The device responds with a subtle chime, and the projection shifts to display the weathered face of an elderly Ithorian, neck curvature suggesting extreme age even for that long-lived species. Master Jorath. Mira identifies the figure, former keeper of records for the Bounty Hunters Guild during the late Republic era. His archives contained the most comprehensive collection of hunting methodologies ever assembled. The Ithorian speaks in the dual-toned voice characteristic of his species, the words translated by the holoprojector, while maintaining the harmonious quality of the original. The fundamental paradox of hunting sentient prey, the recording begins, lies in the inevitable evolution of methodology. The hunter who relies solely on superior weaponry or physical prowess will eventually encounter a target who has prepared specifically for such advantages. True mastery requires understanding that the most effective weapon is the prey's own mind, their own choices, their own nature. Mira nods in agreement as the recording continues, the Arthurian's philosophical insights flowing like water over smooth stones. The history of hunting can be viewed as a progressive refinement of approach, from the crude physical pursuit of primitive times to the sophisticated psychological and circumstantial methodologies of the modern era. What remains constant throughout this evolution is the relationship between hunter and prey, a connection that transcends mere acquisition to become something approaching symbiosis. The hologram fades and is replaced by a new figure, a scarred human female whose bearing suggests military training despite her civilian attire. Commander Vela Kern, Mira explains. Former Imperial intelligence operative who joined the Guild after the Battle of Endor, bringing with her methodologies developed during decades of high-value target acquisition for the Empire. The recording begins, Kern's voice precise and measured. The most dangerous game is not the target who fights back, but the one who understands the nature of the hunt itself. When prey recognizes the patterns of pursuit, conventional methodology becomes not merely ineffective but counterproductive. This recognition necessitated the development of what we termed inverse acquisition, the art of manipulating the target into believing they are the hunter while actually remaining the prey. The hologram shifts to display tactical simulations demonstrating this concept, showing how targets could be made to pursue what they believed were valuable objectives, all while being subtly guided toward predetermined extraction points. The psychological component cannot be overstated. Kern's recording continues. A target who believes they are in control is fundamentally different from one who knows they are being hunted. Their decision-making processes, movement patterns, and security protocols all change in ways that can be predicted and exploited by those with sufficient understanding of behavioral dynamics. As this recording fades, it is replaced by a third figure, this one a Bothan whose fur ripples in patterns, suggesting deep thought despite the static nature of the hologram. The spy master Kothia. Mira identifies the figure, legendary within both the Bothan spy-net and the Guild for developing the concept of networked acquisition, the use of seemingly unrelated individuals to collectively complete contracts without any single participant understanding the complete operation. The Bothan speaks in melodious tones, bringing a musical quality to words of surprising insight. The misconception common to both targets and less sophisticated hunters is treating acquisition as a singular event rather than a process. The most elegant solution rarely involves direct confrontation between hunter and prey, but rather the creation of circumstances where confrontation becomes entirely unnecessary. The recording continues, the Bothan's wisdom unfolding like the petals of a night-blooming flower, each insight building upon the previous to create a comprehensive philosophy of advanced hunting methodology. Consider the target not as an individual to be captured, but as a node within a complex network of relationships, obligations, habits, and necessities. By understanding this network in sufficient detail, one can identify points of influence that, when properly leveraged, create movement as inevitable as water flowing downhill. The target delivers themselves believing every step is freely chosen while actually following a path as predetermined as a planetary orbit. As the final recording fades, Mira carefully removes the crystal and returns it to its place among the others. The holo projector returns to its baseline state, casting a gentle blue glow across the table that seems to pulse in rhythm with your breathing. These insights, Mira says softly, represent centuries of accumulated wisdom regarding the true nature of the hunt. Yet even these masters, with their profound understanding of methodology and philosophy, found themselves unprepared for the revelation of the ghost contract and its implications for the future of hunting throughout the galaxy. She selects the original data crystal, adjusting its position slightly within the holoprojector. The device responds with renewed clarity, its projection gaining definition as it prepares to reveal the most significant information yet shared. All these teachings, all these methodologies, all these philosophical insights converge upon the hunter who occupies the first position on our list. A being whose approach to acquisition transcended methodology entirely to become something that many within the guild refused to classify as hunting, yet which proved more effective than any technique previously recorded. Mira's expression grows contemplative, her voice taking on a quality of reverent wonder as she prepares to reveal the culmination of these chronicles. The most dangerous bounty hunter in the history of the galaxy, whose true nature remained hidden until the final revelation of the ghost contract's purpose. The cantina has entered its deepest night cycle, the chronometer on the wall indicating the hour when most beings have long surrendered to sleep. The environmental systems have further reduced their output, creating a cocoon of perfect stillness around your table. The viewport now shows a spectacular vista of stars against absolute darkness, their eternal light a silent witness to the culmination of Mira's chronicles. "We arrive now," she says, her voice a gentle stream flowing through the tranquil atmosphere, "at the revelation of the most dangerous bounty hunter the galaxy has ever known. A being whose methodology was so profound, so transformative, that many within the guild initially refused to acknowledge its legitimacy." The holoprojector illuminates with a soft pulse before resolving into an image unlike any hunter previously revealed, where the others had been clearly defined beings with distinct appearances and equipment. This projection shows only a hooded figure whose features remain completely obscured, their form seeming to shift slightly even within the stable hologram, as if refusing to be precisely captured or defined. The hunter known only as the Void. Mira identifies the figure, her voice taking on a tone of reverence. A designation applied not by choice but by necessity, as no other identification ever proved accurate or consistent. The hologram expands to display various locations across the galaxy, each showing the same mysterious figure observing from shadows or blending seamlessly into diverse environments, yet always maintaining that essential quality of indefinability. Unlike every hunter we have discussed thus far, the Void employed no consistent physical methodology, no signature weapons, no identifiable pattern of operation that analysts could study or targets could anticipate. Attempts to classify this hunter's techniques consistently failed, as each contract appeared to utilize an entirely different approach, often one uniquely tailored to the specific target in ways that suggested impossible levels of foreknowledge. The projection shifts to display successful acquisitions spanning nearly a century, each demonstrating a different methodology so perfectly adapted to its specific circumstances that it appeared designed rather than developed. What eventually emerged after decades of guild analysis was a revolutionary understanding. The Void did not adapt techniques to targets, but rather became the perfect hunter for each specific prey. Where Solari adopted disguises and Vor shifted physical form, the Void appeared to transform at a fundamental level, embodying whatever hunting methodology would prove most effective for each unique contract. Mira adjusts the projection to display a series of guild assessment reports, each attempting to classify the Void's approach, and each ultimately concluding with variations of the same statement. Methodology indeterminate, results verified. The philosophical implications proved deeply unsettling to traditional hunters. If the Void could become the perfect counterpart to any target, did this represent the ultimate evolution of hunting methodology, or its complete abandonment? Was this being even operating within the recognized parameters of the profession, or representing something entirely new? The hologram displays various theorized forms of the Void, each adapted to specific hunting environments or target types, yet all maintaining that essential quality of undefining mystery. What elevated the Void to the position of most dangerous hunter in galactic history was not merely this chameleon-like adaptability, but the discovery of what appeared to be the ultimate purpose behind the Ghost Contract, the mysterious operation that had drawn the attention of multiple hunters on our list. Mira's voice drops to an even more intimate register, compelling a natural stillness as the revelation unfolds. Through careful analysis of contract patterns spanning centuries, Guild archivists eventually determined that the Void had been systematically evaluating the most exceptional hunters across generations, studying their methodologies, identifying their innovations, and selecting specific techniques for preservation and refinement. The hologram displays a complex web of connections between various legendary hunters and their methodologies, all flowing toward the central figure of the Void like tributaries to an ocean. The Ghost Contract was not a single operation but a centuries-long undertaking designed to distill the essential nature of hunting itself, to identify and preserve the most effective methodologies before they were lost to time or changing circumstances. The projection shifts to display ancient hunting grounds across the galaxy, from the shadow markets of Nar Shaddaa to the corporate towers of Coruscant, from the wilderness preserves of Kashyyyk to the deadly urban canyons of Corellia. In each setting, the mysterious figure of the Void observes, learns, and adapts. What made the Void truly dangerous was not aggression or lethality, but understanding so profound it approached omniscience regarding prey behavior. This hunter recognized patterns in sentient movement and decision-making that transcended species, culture, and circumstance, identifying what might be called the universal constants of evasion and pursuit. Mira pauses, her expression suggesting she approaches the most significant aspect of these chronicles. When she continues, her voice carries the weight of revelation. The ultimate discovery, the truth that elevated the Void beyond all other hunters, was the recognition that at its most refined level, hunting becomes indistinguishable from teaching. The perfect acquisition is not one where the target is captured despite their best efforts, but one where the target evolves through the experience of being hunted, where pursuit becomes a form of guidance rather than opposition. The hologram displays the Void in a posture of meditation, surrounded by symbolic representations of various hunting methodologies, all flowing together in harmonious balance. And from those very shadows between stars, the most dangerous hunter emerged, forever changing the meaning of the hunt. Mira says, echoing her earlier words with new significance. The Void came to understand that the true purpose of the hunt was not acquisition for external reward, but the evolution of both hunter and prey through their eternal dance across the stars. The projection shifts to its most detailed representation yet, showing the Void simultaneously embodying aspects of all previous hunters while transcending their individual limitations, becoming a synthesis of all hunting methodology distilled to its purest essence. The Ghost Contract, when finally understood in its entirety, revealed itself not as an ordinary acquisition, but as the culmination of this philosophy. Its purpose was the identification and selection of hunters whose methodologies represented evolutionary leaps in the profession, preserved not for personal gain, but as a legacy for future generations of those who would walk the path of the hunt. The hologram expands to show how each of the hunters previously discussed had encountered aspects of the Ghost Contract at pivotal moments in their careers, moments when their unique methodologies had reached their most refined expression. Nixa encountering evidence of shadow paths beyond her understanding, Virgil discovering information patterns that transcended conventional analysis, the architect identifying convergence points that suggested predestination rather than probability. Each was drawn to the Ghost Contract, not as prey or competitor, but as unwitting contributor to a greater understanding. Mira's expression softens as the projection displays the final piece of this complex puzzle, a representation of how these diverse methodologies ultimately converged in the comprehensive approach employed by the Void. The most profound revelation came with the understanding that the Void had not merely studied these methodologies, but had systematically arranged for their development, creating circumstances where gifted hunters would naturally innovate new approaches in response to carefully designed challenges, not controlling their actions, but creating environments where specific innovations became probable, even inevitable. The hologram displays a galactic view spanning centuries, showing how certain contracts had seemingly appeared at precisely the moments and locations where they would catalyze evolutionary leaps in hunting methodology. This realization fundamentally altered the Guild's understanding of its own history. What had appeared to be natural evolution of technique in response to changing circumstances was revealed as a carefully guided development, a deliberate cultivation of innovation spanning generations. The hunters themselves had acted with complete autonomy, yet their greatest contributions had been anticipated and incorporated into a larger design. The projection focuses once more on the enigmatic figure of the Void, now revealed not merely as the most dangerous hunter, but as the architect of hunting itself, the guardian of its evolution across the span of centuries. What made the Void truly dangerous was not any specific methodology or technological advantage, but a perspective that transcended the ordinary limitations of time and circumstance. A vision of hunting not as competition between predator and prey, but as an eternal dialogue through which both parties achieve greater understanding. As Mira completes this revelation, the holoprojector dims slightly before resolving into a final image, a perfect balance between light and shadow, pursuit and evasion, capture and escape, all flowing together in harmonious cycles that suggest not opposition but complementary aspects of a single whole. The second open loop of our tale thus resolves. Mira concludes softly. The legendary contract that changed the course of hunting history, revealed not as a simple acquisition, but as perhaps the most ambitious undertaking ever conceived in the profession, a centuries-long cultivation of methodology and philosophy that would ensure the true essence of the hunt survived even as the galaxy itself transformed around it. The deepest hour of night has settled fully upon the cantina. Through the viewport, the stars have shifted again in their eternal procession, some setting beyond the horizon of Nar Shaddaa, while others rise to take their place. The ambient illumination has dimmed to its lowest setting, creating an atmosphere of perfect tranquility conducive to the conclusion of these chronicles. The gentle hum of environmental systems has harmonized with your own breathing, creating a soothing rhythm that enhances the dreamlike quality of this final revelation. "We come now," Mira says, her voice a gentle stream flowing through the peaceful silence, "to the resolution of our third and final mystery, the true identity of the most dangerous hunter and the ultimate purpose that drove the creation of the Ghost Contract." The holoprojector pulses once more before displaying an image that seems to shift between definite form and absolute void, as if existing at the boundary between being and non-being. The figure of the Void appears simultaneously substantial and ethereal, a presence defined as much by absence as by manifestation. Guild records suggest that the Void first appeared approximately 4 centuries ago, though certain evidence indicates an origin far more ancient. What remained consistent throughout these centuries was not physical appearance or operational methodology, but a philosophical approach to hunting that transcended ordinary categorization. The projection displays various historical periods, showing how the Void had manifested differently in each era while maintaining that essential quality of transcendent understanding. The final truth, revealed only to a select few within the highest echelons of the Guild, was that the Void represented not a single hunter but a lineage, a succession of individuals who had each embodied this ultimate approach to hunting before passing their knowledge to a carefully selected successor. The hologram shifts to display a symbolic representation of this succession, a chain of figures each receiving and transmitting the accumulated wisdom of generations, preserving methodologies that might otherwise have been lost to time. This lineage was not connected by species, biology, or even conventional training, but by a shared vision of what hunting could become at its most refined level. Each successor was selected not for their existing skills but for their capacity to expand the understanding of the hunt itself, to perceive deeper patterns in the eternal dance between hunter and prey. Mira adjusts the projection to display various worlds across the galaxy that had served as training grounds for this succession, from ancient temples on forgotten worlds to seemingly ordinary locations that held special significance in the history of hunting methodology. The ultimate purpose of the Ghost Contract, beyond the preservation of methodology, was the identification of potential successors, beings whose natural talents and philosophical inclinations suggested the capacity to advance this lineage into future generations. The hologram expands to show how the various hunters previously discussed had been evaluated not merely for their technical skills, but for their understanding of the deeper significance of their craft, their ability to perceive hunting as something transcending mere acquisition. Each of the hunters on our list encountered the Ghost Contract at precisely the moment when they had reached the limits of their existing approach, when they stood at the threshold of either stagnation or transcendence. These encounters were not accidents, but carefully orchestrated opportunities for evaluation. The projection displays how these encounters had been arranged across vast distances of space and time, suggesting a level of planning and patience beyond ordinary comprehension. Nixa, master of shadow currents, discovered pathways beyond her perception. Vechel, reader of information patterns, encountered data that defied his analysis. The architect, designer of inevitability, discovered convergence points he had not created. Each faced the choice between retreat to comfortable limitation or advancement into unknown territory. Mira's voice takes on a quality of reverence as she continues, the gentle cadence of her words flowing like a lullaby through the tranquil atmosphere. Knowledge, as these hunters discovered, is both gift and curse. To truly understand the nature of hunting is to recognize its inherent limitations, to perceive the boundaries between predator and prey, not as opportunities for dominance, but as invitations to transcendence. The hologram shifts to its final configuration, displaying not a single hunter, but the concept of hunting itself, represented as an eternal cycle of pursuit and evasion, capture and release, teaching and learning across the infinite expanse of the galaxy. The most dangerous hunter in history, the Void, ultimately revealed hunting not as a profession, but as a path toward understanding, a methodology for perceiving the fundamental patterns that connect all sentient beings despite their apparent differences. The true prey was never the target, but ignorance itself, the limitations of perception that keep beings trapped within narrow definitions of self and purpose. As the projection fades to a gentle glow, Mira carefully removes the data crystal from the holoprojector, returning it to its place among the others. The device powers down, leaving only starlight from the viewport to illuminate your table, creating a peaceful transition between the realm of legend and the present moment. And so our third mystery resolves, she says, her voice now barely above a whisper, encouraging a state of perfect relaxation as these chronicles approach their conclusion. The most dangerous hunter revealed not as a threat to be feared, but as a guardian of wisdom to be honored, the lineage of the Void preserving the true essence of hunting across centuries of galactic transformation. She places her hands flat upon the table, a gesture suggesting completion and contentment with the knowledge shared. The galaxy is forever changed by the existence of such beings, not through violence or dominance, but through the preservation of understanding that might otherwise have been lost to the relentless advance of time. The ambient sounds of the cantina have faded entirely now, creating a pocket of perfect stillness that cradles these final moments of revelation. With this knowledge comes responsibility, not to use these methodologies, but to understand their significance in the greater tapestry of galactic history, to recognize how the eternal dance between hunter and prey reflects the fundamental nature of existence itself. Mira looks toward the stars visible through the viewport, her expression suggesting both satisfaction and peaceful acceptance. And now, as we bring these chronicles to their conclusion, let us turn our gaze outward to the eternal void between stars, where countless stories await those with patience to perceive them. The viewport now frames a perfect vista of stars against the infinite darkness of space, their eternal light creating patterns that have guided travelers since the dawn of interstellar exploration. The cantina rests in that perfect stillness found only in the deepest hours of night, when even the ambient systems seem to breathe in harmony with the natural rhythms of sleep. This tranquil atmosphere provides the ideal setting for the conclusion of our journey through the chronicles of the galaxy's most dangerous hunters. As our tales draw to their close, Mira says, her voice now a gentle melody perfectly attuned to this peaceful moment, let us turn our thoughts away from the intensity of pursuit and capture, away from the complex methodologies of legendary hunters, toward the serene vastness that cradles all these stories in its eternal embrace. The faintest illumination from distant stars casts soft shadows across the table, creating an atmosphere of perfect tranquility as Mira continues her final reflections. Imagine now the bounty hunter ships drifting through the void between stars, their occupants resting in the peaceful intervals between contracts, their minds temporarily freed from the demands of pursuit. Picture the quiet moments when even the most dangerous hunters set aside their methodologies and surrender to the universal need for restoration and renewal. Her words paint vivid images of tranquility across the galaxy. From the solitary hunter meditating aboard a small vessel in deep space to the guild halls where veterans share quiet meals between assignments, the weight of their professional identities temporarily set aside in favor of simple companionship. See the legendary Sistrock resting beside a campfire on a remote world, scales gleaming in the gentle light as calculations and strategies dissolve into the simple pleasure of existence. Envision IR-4 in power conservation mode, systems humming at their lowest frequencies, electronic consciousness experiencing its closest approximation to dreams. The gentle cadence of Mira's voice flows like a peaceful stream, each word carrying you deeper into a state of perfect relaxation as these images unfold in your mind. Picture Calibus enjoying the quiet luxury of her private quarters, jeweled adornments set aside, the sophisticated socialite surrendering to simple comfort. Imagine Quatok in rare stillness, weapons carefully stored, massive frame at rest. See Vor between identities, existing in that peaceful interval where transformation pauses, where being simply is without purpose or direction. Mira's voice grows progressively softer, encouraging a transition toward the peaceful realm that awaits beyond these chronicles. Envision Nixa resting within her beloved shadows, finding peace in the absence of pursuit, in the simple joy of existing unobserved. See Val setting aside his analysis of information patterns to appreciate the beauty of a single moment, undissected and complete. Picture the architect watching stars without calculating their convergence points, simply appreciating their eternal beauty. The ambient sounds of the cantina have faded entirely now, leaving only the perfect stillness of deep night and the gentle rhythm of Mira's concluding words. And finally, imagine the void, most dangerous of all hunters, finding ultimate peace in the acceptance of the eternal cycle. In the recognition that all pursuit eventually ends, all conflict resolves, all beings ultimately return to the same cosmic source from which they emerged. Mira looks once more toward the stars visible through the viewport, their distant light, a reminder of the vastness that contains all stories, all pursuits, all resolutions. As you drift toward peaceful sleep, carry with you not the intensity of the hunt, but the wisdom it ultimately revealed, the understanding that beneath apparent opposition lies fundamental connection, that the dance between hunter and prey reflects the eternal rhythms of the cosmos itself. Her final words come as little more than a whisper, inviting the perfect surrender to peaceful rest. Should you wish to continue this journey into the mysteries of the galaxy, to explore other legends and forgotten tales, remember to subscribe to our channel, where countless stories await, each offering passage into dreams as vast and beautiful as the stars themselves.